Come on, Restream. Good morning. Oh,
Yeah, everything froze there for half a second. It's like, oh no.
I'm not. Yeah. Good morning, Kevin. How the heck are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah. Oh, Mark, it's been a little while. We've got all new animations and graphics for uh, that we're working with. So no more roars. So
Yeah.
roar. Oh, yeah.
Elf
Yeah.
costume. We're done with elves, Aaron.
Yeah. We'll have to bring you back next year. We'll have to do that again. That was
Yeah.
apparently very popular, Kevin.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very warm as well. So
Yeah. Did you have a good Christmas, Kevin?
yeah, I had a good Christmas. It was low key. We don't have a whole lot of family around here, and
Okay.
my out of my two kids, one of them is off living in Spain, my daughter, and then my son is still here. So my brother came over, the four of us, cooked a lot of food, watched a lot of football, talked, low key type of stuff. So that was good.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
yeah, my wife kind of enjoyed it. She finally admitted, she goes like, all these years I've been going nuts and everything to try to make perfect Christmases, and this is so much better. Like, yes, yes. How was
Yeah,
yours? Was yours on the
it was pretty
crazier
good.
side?
We got together with some friends and celebrated, and it too was very low key. Everybody kind of brought a dish to pass, and
Mhm.
it was a very nice time. So,
That's good.
uh, leave in the comments what is it that you did for Christmas that was, was it a big Christmas? Did you do a big feast and have 50 people over, or did you? Oh gosh, dang. Or did you just have a low key Christmas? Christina, I will let you know that every time I am in a liquor store, I go and I stand in front of the whiskey aisle looking for Buffalo Trace. And it is like, so it's every time I'm at a grocery store in Wisconsin, because every grocery store has a liquor store. Um, so like in the last week, I've been in like dozens of them, and it is just, uh, it's just crazy. Hold,
So,
hold on a second. Mark, you moved to Utah? Holy cow.
yeah, he moved over the last couple weeks, and so now he's landed in Utah and um, working up there. Same company and everything. They have a place up in Utah, and so he decided to move there, and then yeah, he's part of our Saturday morning crew, and so we kind of saw some different stages of where he was going and stuff like that. But I think he's all
Oh,
settled in now, so good for him.
good. Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
a little bit of snow. So on the Buffalo Trace front, I got good news down here in Texas. Maybe you have to come in Texas now. Is whatever our limited allocation was has gone away.
Oh, really?
We could even buy it by the case if we wanted
Shut up.
to. So normally it's stocked in the shelves when we go in, and yeah, so I grabbed 2 bottles just before Christmas. So it's well on stock here. So yeah, and just like
Oh,
Christina says, under $30
it's
still.
still a
So
chase item. I walked into a liquor store last week, and I walked over to the whiskey aisle, and I was standing there, and the lady from behind the counter, just without looking up, said, "We're out of Buffalo Trace." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." I just left. It was unbelievable. So,
wow.
yeah, not that I'm trying to promote drinking, but it is a nice cocktail. It's not the end of the world, right? Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh, wow.
all right. Well, before we jump into that, we've got a number of things we're going to be going into and talking through. Like, this is our big year-end review, so like, we're going to be talking about all the biggest things that came out this year. This is going to be much more of a free-form conversation. I don't think we're going to have many demos, if any. But want to like just first, like, make sure everyone is aware of some things. So last week we kicked off, or not even last week, it was just earlier this week, we kicked off our a new series at Kratos BI called Working with Data. These are going to be long form conversations and actual, like, walking through and showing people how we work with data and how we actually do some things. So you can actually see some of the best, brightest minds in the industry working with tools, touching them, feeling them, and also seeing them struggle, right? Like seeing where they have challenges, seeing where they have issues, so that, you're not, you can understand, like, you're not alone in this world, right? Like if you're struggling with something, sometimes it can feel like you're just an idiot, and you're not an idiot. Some
Mhm.
things are hard, right? So do check it out. It was fascinating for me to watch and see Miguel Myers, who is like the best Power BI designer developer I know, or at least the top three that I could think of. Um, uh, like to see him even struggle with how to do certain things in the tools was very interesting, and to hear him like, oh yeah, we're working through this thing, or hear him talk about that, it was an interesting experience. So
And
do
so
check it out.
it provides a deeper thought process behind a lot of that, right? Hey, when you do hit one of those struggles and you're still trying to achieve a goal, like, hey, yeah, this is a little bit of a shortcoming, but we could do this instead, and
Right.
giving some of that thought process, which the longer form content allows you to do. So that's good.
Yeah,
I think
that's exactly right.
didn't you say that kind of spurred off from what you learned by doing your 5 hour reset? That
Yeah, yeah,
there
that
is a
was exactly it. I and do go back and check it out. I did a 5 6 hour, I think it's 5 hours and 38 minutes or something like that. Live stream trying to reset my entire demo environment. Got most of the way there, got some work to do, but it was fascinating. There are a number of you that came in, hung out for several hours, and we chatted and we talked about what we were doing, what the thought process was, and I realized there's a lot of, like, if not, if not necessarily solo practitioners, but you're doing this work in a small environment, and maybe there's just
Mhm.
one or two of you, and so there's not a lot of people to bounce ideas off of, and get like, oh hey, I think A is a good idea because of XYZ, right? Or and so I think it's really good to see that and to hear that type of conversation through. So um yeah, and it was fun blowing up an F2. Like, oh, and I guess I'm done.
That's it. So, if you ever wanted to know how many hours you got, it's the end of this live stream. 5.
Right, right,
See ya.
right. Right. So
So,
do check that out. I'm looking forward to it. We got the next one scheduled. Like, it's not going to be like regularly broadcast things because it takes time to like have a
mhm.
long form conversation. You have to have a lot of time for that long form conversation. So, but what I am doing is I'm recording them ahead of time because there are people all over the world, and like a specific time every week for a live stream doesn't work for them. But I'm going to record them and I'll post those out there. For you guys to see and check out. If you want early access, become a member for as little as $5 a month. You'll get access to all of the videos and stuff early, but they will go out free to everyone. Um, do note, if you get to the level of chosen in subscribing it, not only do you get your name in the credits of the live stream and all the videos, but you will also get a custom caricature of yourself in a new chosen profile. Now,
Mm.
unfortunately, I'm going to have to reset my artist for that one because the current artist I have isn't meeting what I would like for this to look like. So
We'll
we're going
leave
to
it
be
at that.
finding a new artist on it, but I don't have any chosen members, so it's not like there's someone banging down the door on that one. So be just know that that is part of it as a show of thanks for supporting the channel. So, um, all right,
All
let's
right.
get into it. So let me share my screen. Dun,
So,
dun, dun.
as you're sharing your screen, what would you say was the number one theme for Microsoft Power BI and Fabric during
Oh,
this
geez,
year?
hold on a second here. Why does it do this? This is so
I don't
weird.
know. It's a new guest. The screen is a guest.
See, this is what I want it to be. All right, I
All
don't
right.
know what's going on here. All right, what was that? I'm sorry, Kevin.
What what would you say would be the number one theme if you went back through and looked at, all the different articles and announcements Microsoft made? What would be the number one theme that you think would come out from that?
The number one theme that would come out
Yeah, for the
is
year. Yeah, for
uh,
the yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess transformation.
Hmm. When I went through it over the last couple days,
Hmm.
what I kind of came up with was Copilot.
Oh,
There was probably a Copilot article in almost every month, right? So you could go back through the blog post on both the Fabric side, the Power BI side, look through, the headlines and everything. But Copilot, everything was probably, in my mind, the number one theme,
yeah.
right? That came out, just kind of skimming through what they were. Mark kind of guessed Lakehouse. Lakehouse was, up there. There was a lot of advancements in Lakehouse, different things. Should we ask ChatGPT what Mike? I think you meant Copilot, didn't you, Christina? We got to rebrand her. So yeah, that's kind of what I saw looking back through at things. But you had something you wanted to show. Let's.
Yeah. So let's go over and quick before we do this. BI Explorer is a new follower of the channel. Hello, BI Explorer. They are hosting a free training tomorrow. This was just announced. I don't know if you can see this, but if you're interested in learning more about data visualization, data modeling, DAX, drop him a message over on Twitter. I think I'll post his handle out in our chat. Um, and get in on that training. This is a new group. I've not talked with them, but hey, new members are always welcome. Excited to support people who are getting in the industry and starting to help people out, especially with free content, right?
Nice.
And then one other thing I wanted to get into and show before, is uh, I don't know if you guys saw this. I guess this was 2 weeks ago. It just popped up in my timeline today, but Microsoft is in the leader in the data aggregation space. Let me see if I can zoom in more for you guys here. Is it zooming? It is zooming.
Yes, yeah.
But Microsoft is way up in the front here. Just above Oracle. The only one really who's out in front of Microsoft is Informatica, and
And they've owned this space for quite a while too.
yeah, they kind of have. But I have to ask you a question, Kevin. How do you get started with Informatica?
Lots of money. I haven't done Informatica for a number of years. I mean, I know it's very popular and everything, but also the cost of it, it just doesn't seem, you can get started with the tools that are baked into a platform, right? Like the tools that are baked into Fabric, you could easily get started with everything there. The tools that are baked into to Snowflake and things like that, they it's when you got to get more advanced, which I haven't had to do. It seems like that's where people start justifying the Informatica type of stuff. What do you see in some of the bigger clients you work with?
Well, I'm going to say that it is. Well, the last time I looked at Informatica was probably 18 months ago, so maybe they've changed it since then. But I will say it is impossible to get started working with Informatica unless you're already at a big company and you're looking to get into data
Mm-hmm.
at that company. There are almost no free tools, free capabilities. I mean, uh, with Microsoft Fabric and Microsoft Tools, there have always been free ways to get up and running with the tools, right? You could get a Fabric, free, license, a trial license, and I mean, I haven't looked in a little bit, but it's been around for 16 months, right? Like you've been able to use all of the features, do all of the things. Um, and it hasn't cost you a cent.
Yeah.
Informatica, like I think the initial investment is $100,000.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think so too.
that's like the lowest you can get into to start trying it. It's just crazy. Uh, see you there, Christian. Uh, Happy New Year. Um, so that will forever be like a deal stopper, or for me when it comes to thinking about Informatica. It's just it, you just can't go down that path. That means that you'll get no independent people who have like spun up, had a passion for data, and started working with it. You will
Yeah.
only get people who have already started a big company, went into a training program that company created or bought from Informatica, and that's it. That's your
That
only source for.
yeah, that was the only place it was, when I was at much bigger consulting companies, those type of places where we kind of looked at it and then we would have a group that would know it and
Mhm.
everything. But yeah, you could afford to train the people that way. um, just kind of, I never thought about it the way you put it together was you can't just kind of jump in and start seeing some free training, find a community, this, that, and the other. Microsoft, SQL, Fabric, Power BI, all of those have a great community. I don't know that you can compare it to any other of how much is shared within the community, how much people push each other to learn and want to learn, and you know I know years ago when I was working at more of a competitive consulting, bigger firms and stuff like this, I'd look at it and go, well, why is everybody giving away all this stuff, these ideas for free? Right? This is
Mhm.
what you get paid for to come in as a consultant. But in this community, it really is. You can find almost everything you need to get yourself going, and then have to hire out as you get bigger, or to staff in with experts and things like that. So it is amazing. It always has been.
Yeah, I think there's a mindset in the industry or in the world that there is only there's limited amount of work, and there's only oh well, there's only so much budget, and there's only so many jobs, and at a singular company at a singular point in time, maybe that's true. But yes, Christina, that's exactly where I'm going. Like this pie is continuing to grow in an exponential rate when it comes to how we work and manage, data. And it's the data that powers the digital age.
Hmm.
Copilot sucks without data, right? It just does. All
Yeah,
AI
all
sucks
AI
without
does,
data,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Like it's garbage without data. Um, that's why we need to take that like growth mindset of like, you know what, it's going to be fine. I'm going to talk about how you do things for free. In fact, like I was having a conversation the other day, I'm like, hey, I would recommend, and I do, and I make a living off of this. Hire me to come in and build these components for you, because I've got teams of people, and I know there's other consultants here. I've got teams of people that are great at this. We've done it so many times. We're super efficient. It is a high ROI investment that you can make, and then you can just be off and running. But if you want to do it yourself for free, I've put the videos out there between my channel and my consulting company's channel. Like we've got like hundreds of videos that will show you how to do all these things. You can totally do that, right? Like it's all good. Go ahead and do that yourself. And I think it's that growth mindset that a lot of people are not.
Hmm.
I think they miss that side of it, right? And um, because frankly, there is such a high ROI. That's why I have a job, and I'm so
Yeah.
busy that there is high ROI there. But the possibility
Well,
of people do it themselves, it's so easy now. You
yeah.
can do it if you choose to um, pick up that hammer and
Well,
chisel and get to work.
right. Well, and back to kind of the community helping make it easy,
Hmm.
right? When I asked that question earlier about, what was some of the big theme, right? Copilot from the Microsoft side. But another thing that I've seen as a big theme and you wouldn't find in the blog post from Microsoft, but you hear from everybody else talking about it now. Semantic Link Labs, right?
Yeah.
And look at how much that has been given to the community, that if you want to do a whole bunch of stuff for free that some of the consultants built out prior to this coming out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or other techniques of doing it. Now you look at Semantic Link Labs, which I wrote down June 18th was when they had their first release.
Mm-hmm.
But you go back, look at the repository, there was something like Fabric Cat Tools, I think is what it came from ahead of time, much earlier for that. But just how much of that was given away for free to kind of help, boost your productivity in the platform, and everything. So it is just an amazing community that, hey, if you want to invest with some consultants and everything to get yourself going, they'll help you be more efficient. If you want to do it on your own, there's great tools in the community to do it. So, and
Yeah, and I'll say one of the things I absolutely the way I describe Semantic Link Labs is it is a nuclear reactor to empower your business.
mhm.
And it truly is. Although I use that analogy on purpose, because if you're not careful, it can blow up your entire world if you're not careful with it. So with great power does come great responsibility. Semantic Link Labs has the ability to make, well, you can dynamically trigger the generation or exfiltration of all of the data inside of your capacities, and blow your capacities out using Semantic Link Labs. So like all of that stuff is possible. So you have to be careful, but I think the benefit is, the for the most part, people who know how to do this and know how these things work are smart and are capable and are logical in thinking through the execution. But that's one of the things that I just I want to
Yeah,
caution people around, right?
yeah, and I think when you say that, it's more on the semantic link side of it than the
Right,
semantic link labs,
right,
right? Where the
right.
labs, the add-on that Michael put together and everything, turns things that you would have had to write 5, 10, 20 lines of code down to 1 or 2, right? And some of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff really for maintenance and what you need to do within it, rather than what semantic link was targeted for was, hey, let's bring our data science people back into this, hitting all the data, hitting all the models. And I think that could blow up a whole lot more than the add-ons that labs gives to it as well. We're moving around?
Yeah. I just realized I got my big head. Like, oh, look how big my
Uh,
head is.
all right. So what else would you say, right? So what are some of the other things that you wanted to dive into? I think you said you had a little PowerPoint you could jump into for.
Well, that's on the Power BI side, but I think there's a
Okay.
lot more on the Fabric side, because
I mean, I
if
got
I
a
think
list.
about the big components that are in Fabric, right? I'm going to say the next big item I had on my list is RTI, real time intelligence, and
Okay.
that going GA, and uh, like that type of that's a big step forward for us as engineers and developers. And I think it's something that a lot of people in the data space who are classically very batch oriented, i.e., I load my data once a night,
Mm-hmm.
every night my data loads, and then I've got all day to work with it. And then I load it again the next, tomorrow. Real-time intelligence speaks to a significant evolution that we're going to have to take into account as we're starting to build and manage our ecosystem going forward, right? um, RTI means we can make data instantly available everywhere inside of our network, and the only
Mm-hmm.
limitation is, well, frankly, it's going to be a cost on how often you want these processes running. But even that at times can be very manageable, because you're still talking about processing the same uh, amount of data, right? For the most part, instead of just processing these big bulks of data, you're just processing one little package at a time as they come in. So,
Mhm.
um, that can have a good positive impact on your consumption. How much are you using RTI, or have you worked with it
I
at all?
I have not worked with RTI. That's gotta be something. I got a heck of a cough today. That's gonna have to be something I gotta get into there during this year.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is, um, the first jump into it is the new monitoring of the workspaces that
Hmm.
they put into it, right? Because that seems to be a good way that I tend to learn some of these type of things before jumping into what the business needs, right? But look at it from, what do I need from a technologist to support the environment? So as I'm rolling out a production solution here over the next month or so, I want to get that monitoring put in, learn how to look at it for my own needs, try to find out what's performing well, what's not performing well, find issues or whatever, which should give me a basis for all of it, right? So find something that you need to do to learn the technology within yourself, instead of just going, "Oh, well, here, I think from the business, I think we could do this," and then you're stuck trying to deliver something and learn it at the same time, right? So that's kind of where I think I'm going to jump to for a lot of that real time intelligence that seems to be the base for the monitoring.
Yeah, Kevin, I think you're right on that. I believe that is the back end technology. Um, it's good to see Microsoft eating their own dog food and building out the tools that are used inside the platform. Should be built with the platform, right?
Hmm.
So that's fantastic to see that. And honestly, I think that fits into another big topic that we have, and that topic is One Lake and all of the opportunities that One Lake brings when it comes to multi-cloud shortcutting and
Hmm.
like just load one time, use many places, and the accessibility of information is just incredible with One Lake, and that keeping all of your data in parquet files. I think that really changes the way we can work and operate with data, because this to me this fulfills the promise of data virtualization that we heard 15 years ago that was
Right.
never really fulfilled. And there's all sorts of data virtualization companies out there that make a ton of money, like kind of selling pipe dreams of how things should work, but really just makes a whole bunch of salespeople, rich, and drives up companies' costs. I don't know if you've ever run a large scale data virtualization, but it is fantastically expensive to get that
Yeah.
up and running.
Yeah. We talked about it at a couple places I was at, and would start trying to do it. It was difficult, it was expensive and everything, but yeah, again, kinda going back through, looking at a lot of the articles, what you brought up, and that was, like a 3rd or 4th theme that I caught on everything, is there was a lot of functionality delivered or articles written trying to show how to easily bring the data into this platform.
Hmm.
Right? And then another part that gets onto that, the virtualization that you're talking about, is database mirroring,
Hmm.
right? And now there's certain databases that are GA. I'm using mirroring against a Azure SQL database. It works great, super easy to set up. Um, but then you start reading on. I just started reading on the open mirroring, I think is what they called it, right? And so I got one client that wants, even though it's really small, they want to get things closer to real time. So, um, and I'm sitting there going, well, I could go against this new preview feature, right, of how the open mirroring works, produce the statements the way that it has, and I think it could work out much better to sit there and run continuously throughout the day, and the data would just keep getting updated, even though the source system is even non-relational database, right? It's coming bringing data in from the APIs. So yeah, bringing things in easier, getting access to it all in one lake, getting consistency on security and everything was another thing. I saw a lot of articles as I went back through everything.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I agree that the consistency and security with one lake is just fantastic, because now you can truly set that security in one place and have that be available, and then people can just consume and use it without having to reload or worry about security exfiltration. I do think that this is going to bring together some challenges in large organizations that have very strict governance programs in place,
Mm-hmm.
because I think those governance programs are misguided, is probably the nicest way to put it, because they uh uh yeah, Fernando, I forgot to advertise it.
Yeah.
I thought today was Thursday until Kevin
it was
texted me this morning
it
at
was a little bit of a
7:09.
rough.
He said, "Hey."
Are we here? It's a little bit of a rough start, but we're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
great now.
Yeah. But I think governance programs are going to have to shift to be much more understanding of how people are actually working with data, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's going to expose a lot of access that people currently have to data today to need their job to do their jobs, right? But their access is like 2 or 3 steps removed, right? Like access is given to a report writer who writes a report, and then that's exported to Excel, which is then loaded into an Access database. That's then exported to Excel again, and that user's then using that like fifth variation, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or Kevin Data.
Kevin data. Well, and,
Um,
and then that's put into a Power BI report that
right.
is delivered to the C-suite, and they
Yep.
go, "Well, it's in Power BI, and Power BI is our standard platform, so it's got to be the right report."
Right. And not only does it have to be like, but it has to be, right? Like,
Yeah.
now this is the blessed and certified consecrated path. And then IT has to go along and make that available. So what we're just going to see is that's going to shift right back into one link, so we could set that security in one place. But we're going to have to be aware, like, okay, hang on, not only do we have to enable people to manage and do all these transformations or do these different views or whatever, but like that that user at that end is going to need access to that data to do their jobs. Morning, Jack. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't worry about being late. We're all late today.
is a
it's,
rough one today.
it's the end of the year. It's simple.
So I'm gonna say, just we're gonna break in with the best Christmas gift that I got this year was the bear skin hoodie. I don't know if you guys have seen these on YouTube. It's hitting me up all the time, and it's like the bearskin hoodie with a new like outer shell like stuff. And I got it.
Are you going to model this for us? I'm
It
kind of
is
curious.
way too far away for me to
I'm kind
go
of
and
curious
modify.
what it looks like now.
It's it's great because it's got like a rain slicker on it that you can put on as an optional thing, and it has literally rained every time I've gone to take Dax a walk since I got that gift. It is the most perfectly timed gift I've ever had in my entire life, and we've been able to take really good walks because I've been perfectly dry and warm, and what otherwise would have been, when it rains, it's 36 degrees out. That's a miserable rain, right? Like that's
No,
awful.
I don't really know that. So,
Oh, you don't you've never encountered such a thing? Oh,
well, I did when I lived up north. Now down in Texas for the last 30 plus years.
okay.
Right?
All right. All right. Well,
It's not as much, and it's just you know don't have to. I don't get advertised for the bearskin hoodie down here a whole lot. I don't think I'm the target
Yeah,
audience,
I
which is why I'm
suppose.
kind of interested in seeing what it looks like. So,
Oh
but
my
I'll just look
gosh.
it up later.
Do not uh go to an incognito browser. Like, be prepared. Like, the number of YouTube videos I get on this thing is just, it's
All
too
right.
much. But I got it. It's fantastic. I should have filled out their little registration thing to become a promoter of it, but whatever. It's
Where
great.
were we going with this one?
Holy crap.
what
Yeah,
what
I'm
what
completely
brought
off
it back
base.
up?
Yeah. So we
Anyways,
yeah, let's reset. So we hit on mirroring, right? We hit
right.
on real-time intelligence. We talked about shortcuts. We talked about data factory, right? We hit on Copilot and everything, right?
Well, the next one that I would hit on, and we could switch to Power BI, but this kind of involves Power BI a little bit as well. I would say being a true pro developer environment, right?
Mm.
There was a lot more with Git integration done throughout this last year, making the ability to actually call out to GitHub instead of just Azure DevOps. Which part of that involves, if we switch a little bit more into the Power BI side, supporting Tyndall on the Power BI side. I think PBIP was put out during this last year. I know Tyndall was, because when I went through all the articles, Tyndall got mentioned quite a bit. But bringing on these tools to be able to do true pro development, which from what we tend to focus on the Fabric side, right, the data engineering part of Fabric, we definitely need. I don't think you should be doing the data engineering at all. Well, my opinion is you shouldn't do any development without some type of Git repository backing you up. But definitely on the data engineering side, especially running a team, being able to branch out to another workspace to do feature level development and then merge it all back in, that's working wonderful for myself and my team. As Peter mentions, the PBIP format has been a game changer. Take PBIP and put it down to with Tyndall on top of it, and then what we know is coming with Tyndall scripting. I think that's going to be even more of a game changer coming up. So I agree with Peter. PBIP was a game changing format. Works well with Git repositories. I try not to do anything without Git anymore, even if it's just my own small stuff.
I agree. And Fernando's got a question. He's asking, do we need to create a new GitHub account with our clients' accounts, or maybe we work with our own? Same for VS Code.
So if you're going to actually do it for client, I would, you know, I would just have that discussion with that client and how they want to own everything, right? Just like a client can own and pay for Azure DevOps to get over the 5 licenses and stuff like that, that it should be a common setup for them. So I would say yes, but I don't think it would be you to do it. It would be something controlled by your client that's going to be doing it. Now, if they don't know it, and you're a small time solo entrepreneur, I have had times where I've just put things over into my own GitHub and then gave them access to that, right? But that would be very, very small. Most clients that I have, even if they don't know it, I have set up an Azure subscription to get one of the free licenses. If I'm just the only person doing it, it's still in their tenant, their kind of domain and everything, very easily to be turned over. So think about that when you're doing it. If you're doing it off of your own personal GitHub, that may be hard to turn it over later on. VS Code, if you're able to put VS Code onto your machine, I don't usually see that as a problem between different clients, right? And then you're just signing in with different profiles. There is a profile part on VS Code. I tend to use multiple profiles for every single client. So I have things set up differently and segment out. Because I don't have any clients that require me to have different machines. Chris, and what you do, you get some of the bigger clients. You may even get a client that requires you to use machines that live up in the cloud. You're never using your own personal one. I can't remember if it was you that mentioned to me or somebody else, where somebody was saying they had to have a machine shipped to them from one of their clients. I've seen that before in security. You can't touch anything unless it's on their machines. So, you know,
Yeah,
we're
Kevin, is you're spot on. Uh, uh, yeah, you just have to. It's very client specific, but I would encourage you, unless it's a very small client, uh, like this should be something that's owned by the clients, that you don't have to bear a responsibility for ownership beyond the terms of your contract, right?
right.
This should be something that they own, manage, and control. All of that stuff is great. Um, uh, yeah, that would be a good one. Actually, and we're gonna combine. We've got 17 minutes left, and I think we're gonna combine two things together here. Um,
Like
so
chocolate and peanut butter.
like chocolate and peanut butter here. We're gonna talk about. Yona has a good comment here. She said, "I'm loving this conversation about the good. When do we get over the bad and the ugly? For example, is stuff that we'd like to see in fabric." And I'm going to combine that with uh, uh, um, uh, Jason's comment on maybe Direct Lake.
Mm,
So I'm going to say Direct Lake is the biggest promise that fabric has to offer that I'm looking forward to using. But every time I go to use it, I run into a blocker uh, that like makes me revert back to import on a solution.
interesting.
And that's something that is a bit of a challenge for me, because we get to like, oh yeah, we're going direct lake, and then all of a sudden we encounter the need in a report or the need in the model for a feature or piece of functionality that isn't yet supported by direct lake. And then, oh well, okay, I guess we're going back to import. Or the model is the
Like a
model
couch.
is just doesn't quite work as well with direct lake on it. I think there's huge promise there. Is that one security, as Yona's bringing up here, and
That
uh
needs to come through. Yeah.
yeah, that needs to come through. And uh
What would you say is your top driver that pushes you back away from Direct Lake? I mean, the one that I've seen a couple times, right, is case sensitivity,
yeah,
right? To where it seems like no matter what you do, it's still case insensitive, and some data is just not ready for that. Where import is um, so I'm sorry, Direct Lake is case sensitive, import is case insensitive, right? And
correct.
so you end up with some changes there. But anything else that drives you at it? Like something happens, you drop back to the direct query, performance goes bad, or um,
So what's hopping to mind, I'm now starting to question if it's still a blocker. But the one of the times where, and you only get a couple runs at this, in
mhm.
consulting, right? Like you're working on a model, all of a sudden you encounter an issue, you have to fall back, and then
Oh
you never
yeah,
get to go back at it, right?
right.
Like um one of the times we were trying to implement it, it was, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it. The thing you use for time intelligence, so you only use one selected measure, is the DEX. It's
Oh,
calc groups.
the
Calc groups.
calculation groups. I think that's
Yeah.
there now.
Is that there now? Okay,
Yeah,
good, good.
yeah.
And that could be the type of thing that is, um, like it's evolving, right? And you know, and uh, yeah, and
It's
honestly, well, no, it's not field
it's not
parameters.
yeah, field parameters you could work into the direct lake
Mhm,
model, right? But the challenge is as much as and maybe you could do it with desktop now that you could actually edit the direct lake model directly with desktop.
mhm,
But for the long, I haven't checked to see if you could put in the field parameters with that. But you had to do it through something like Tabular Editor up until recently. So,
yeah,
or using C Sharp, Semantic Link Labs type of thing. So,
yeah.
yeah, so that was part of the problem.
And it's been evolving, right? They've been making
Yeah,
improvements, and so a lot of the times it's just you only get so much. Like I said, so many shots at something, and then when it doesn't work, honestly, you start to get reluctant to go back to it, right?
yeah.
Like.
And kind of back to the bad and the ugly, even though I was mentioning, improvements for pro development, I
Mhm.
think the deployment part of it is still, to me, very much lacking. I would like to see better ways of supporting deployment. I'd love to have it all done with deployment pipelines, but I don't see it there for the data engineering side. That to me is still a little bit difficult. The deployment pipelines for reports and for semantic models, including semantic models that are direct lake, I have been still putting them off to their own workspaces. So I have a data engineering workspace, a direct lake model workspace, and reports. So that then reports still stay separate. For the last two, deployment pipelines work great for me.
Yeah.
Not for the first part. So
Well, I'm going to say I think it's right to separate your front end analytics
mhm,
consumption and your back end load and processing, right? Because
mhm,
to me, there's like you always have to provide different SLAs, I guess, right? My reports and analytics have to be up during a certain schedule, and maybe that's 24/7, as they have to be available for users to
right.
come in and look at your reports. Data engineering, on the other hand, is often much more sporadic, right? Like a lot of
Mhm,
companies run on batch loads where load it up at night,
yeah.
and then in the morning, you turn it all off, right? Well, with by separating those workloads, you could have an F64 that manages your front end consumption and usage, right?
Mhm,
And then you use all of that compute basically for users coming in, and then you have a stop start compute or a scalable compute that you use on the back end for your data engineering activities, right? And
yeah.
there's a lot of variation that you can have, right? That always on is great for your front end stuff, but your back end, maybe you don't need to have that
Yeah.
in its entirety, right?
Yeah. And, with kind of my focus on pro development at this point, right,
Hmm.
is you kind of brought up SLAs, but also release cadence, right? The reports, people tend to look at something and just say, "Hey, can you change that?" Right? Let's say
Yeah.
it's something everybody hates. Can you just change that color? Right?
Hmm.
So that's a much faster release cadence on a report side. And then you get something into a report that you may need to put and adjust a measure in a model or something like that. So, though, to me, you're going to have more frequent releases of your reports, or you're reporting your thin reports and that. So that's a good reason to separate it out. Maybe not as much, but still kind of frequent on your model. You still may be releasing that. The data engineering work, that still takes a long time. It may be something that could be coded very easily, but the
Hmm.
regression testing that you got to do, the validation, because when you mess that up, you're going to mess all everything else. So, what we tend to do is set up release timings and say we will not release the data engineering part except for on these days, and we'll plug in what's going to be fixed. Now, of course, if there's something where it's wrong and you got a hot fix to it, that again sets you up for a better release environment. Um, so yeah, I think that's another good reason to be separated out by workspaces.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people also there's good we're going to Fabric is running everything, right? So your
Hmm.
entire data platform, that like get ready for more capacities, right? Like okay, you got your F64 for front end. They get, like Christina's saying, get your F64 for the back end too. I mean, I know these are $5,000, asks, but if we look at like what a lot of companies are running and spending on Snowflake or Databricks or Informatica, as we were talking about, that is a drop in the bucket to what people are spending when it
Mhm.
comes to working in the cloud and doing data work in the cloud. This is not a ton of money. Um, be prepared to have more capacities and be managing more things. And, that even circles back to something that you were saying, Kevin, earlier about uh, uh, workspace monitoring, right? The workspace monitoring
Mhm.
is great. But I'm hoping that leads into larger macro scale capacity monitoring
Yes.
and better capacity monitoring there. And so I'm looking at you, Tim Bindis. This is your call out.
Yep.
I want to see some good stuff coming out of you and your team relatively soon, right? So, and
So so we do just have a few more minutes based on the
mhm.
clock. I just looked down, I'm like, "Wow, that moved quickly." We touched a little bit on some of the bad and ugly,
Mhm.
um, but I don't think we've hit a whole lot on the Power BI side. So I think if we didn't bring up the number one asked for change on the Power BI side itself, what would that be that hit?
So the number one thing, well, to that, I'm going to turn over to my Power BI updates that I do on a monthly basis
There
with
you go.
Helen Wall. So I don't know if you've seen this. Me and Helen have been doing this for, oh my gosh.
You guys have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. So
It
this
goes way
document
back.
comes out once a month, September of 21. Holy cow. Um, so we go out and we capture all of these. And so all of the highlights are all put together here. Uh, um, they're all in place, so you can just go ahead and look at all of these things. Uh, Honestly, if I look through and I start to scan through all of these different features and functionalities, like the biggest features gotta be dark mode.
That's what I had written down. Yep.
Yeah, it's dark mode. Say what you will, all these other things are out there, but like dark mode is awesome. It's
Mhm.
changed the way we're interacting and working with the tools, and excited that we're doing that, right? So um
Yeah, I
yeah.
run 2 different versions of Power BI on my machine, right? One from the store and one that I download all the time, right? Just in case I need something. I keep one in dark mode and one in light mode so I know which one I'm doing.
Well,
So
I will say, I think the thing I'm starting to do is like all my client sessions, I'm keeping in one mode, and the work I do for non-client I'm keeping in the other. So
Mhm.
dark mode on clients, light mode on others. That really helps me differentiate when I'm doing those. Uh, oh, Peter's not a fan of it. Okay.
Yeah,
I
there's some
use
people
all of
that don't
this.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so a couple other quick things, and I don't know if you wanna go back through more in your presentation, but, um, just a couple highlights that I had.
Hmm.
Um, I think visual calcs are gonna be very promising. I know that that's still kind of being looked at, and you know, I know I'd use it once. It actually helped me through something that was a little bit faster to put it in as a visual calc to look to do it. There's some issues on, now if you have that calc, it's actually at the report layer instead of trying to be able to reuse it. But this was one of those things where I had to have it out very quickly, and so um, it was a good way of pushing it out. So that came out during this year. Um, I think there's been a lot better information, or a lot better on the core visuals itself, a lot more formatting options delivered throughout the year. We're seeing things with, I mean, from what you know, with Miguel, right?
Hmm.
On the core, on all those core visuals.
Well, and that's probably if we think Power BI, the
Mm-hmm.
advances in the core visuals, that core visual roadmap there, to me, that's the most exciting thing that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be available for anyone and everyone. Is like these are radically shifting and changing how we're going to interact and work with visuals. Now, if you watch the live stream, you'll see like they still have a long way to go. The UI still needs improvement. Um, I am excited that that new on object. Oh crap!
On object editing.
Yes.
So
Uh,
I moved
I
away
almost said
from
something I'm
that,
not allowed to talk about. So, I am excited about the new core visuals
but
and what we have going in that direction. So, so yes, that I think is probably the biggest thing on the Power BI side. All right, Kevin. We're at the end of our hour.
I
It's
see
been
that.
fantastic going through these updates. Let us know in the comments what we
Yeah,
missed, right? Is there
DAX
anything that
queries.
we
I had
didn't
DAX
hit
queries
on?
written down, but yeah, we didn't get to that. DAX
Oh yeah.
queries was actually released more than a year ago, but the
Hmm?
DAX query and the info views was really pushed, bringing it up onto the service was this year. So yeah, there was a lot more for it this year. All right, with that, we had
All
to
right.
wrap up with DAX queries.
Awesome. That sounds like a good way to summarize it. Finish it.
It's been an
Hey,
amazing year.
it
Thank you
has been an
for
amazing year, Kevin. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in and like hanging out with us on Fridays and really truly like this is my favorite way to spend my Friday mornings and I mean really excited to spend that with time with you guys. Looking forward to 2025 and what the new year brings. Thanks
Well,
all.
you have a great new year. We'll see you in 2025.
Peace.
Peace.
The Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.